Line of some really weird weapons of mass destruction. We're counting down the top 10 wackiest weapons in the animal kingdom and comparing them to some of our own unusual armaments. We'll be coming out with all guns blazing when weird weapons are taken to the most extreme.
Earth is a planet of extremes. Extreme places. And extreme animals. But some animals are more extreme than others. Join us as we count down to find the most unusual and the most extraordinary on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 10.
Humans are scarily good at inventing weapons. And as we're constantly bombarded with images of battle, we're all too familiar with standard-issue military hardware. And the same thing is happening in the natural world. When animals fight, we're used to seeing tusks, teeth, and claws. But some creatures have invented very different weapons. As we count down the wackiest ways animals have found to fight for survival, we'll discover that this natural arms race has developed increasingly complicated weaponry. But things are nice and simple for our first contender. It's one of nature's very own stealth bombers, and you don't want to be in the firing line when it drops its load. Flying in to number 10 in the countdown is the fieldfare. Like many birds, this type of thrush nests high in the trees to avoid predators on the ground. However, that's no defense against other aerial hunters. So, when a black-hooded crow gets too close to the chicks, the protective parents fly into action. First, they call on reinforcements from neighboring nests. Then they attack using traditional weapons. They fly screeching straight at their enemy. But if the crow keeps on coming, the fieldfares break out their secret weapon. They drop a disgusting bomb from their bottom. Fieldfares are number 10 in the countdown because their stink bombs are so corrosive, they can damage the waterproof covering on the crow's feathers. That's enough to force even the most persistent predator into a hasty retreat. But fieldfares are not the only experts at throwing excrement. Once upon a time in Beaver, Oklahoma, people used dry cow dung as fuel for fires. It was so highly valued that you could trade it for food. But today, in honor of their ancestors, people have found a different use for cow chips. Welcome to the World Cow Chip Throwing Championship. The rules are simple. Each chip must be more than 6 inches in diameter. No gloves are allowed, but to get a better grip, some competitors lick their fingers. At least in this competition, nobody gets to wear the smelly missile, unlike the targets of the field fair. It doesn't matter if you're a crow or a human. Step into this bird's territory, and you're fair game. The field fair's attack may be crude, but it's definitely effective. However, as our countdown continues, we'll discover weapons that are far more elaborate and hygienic.
Number 9.
The forests of Asia are home to one of the natural world's most powerful hunters. Sneaking in to number 9 in the countdown is the tiger. There's nothing weird about most of its weapons. Thanks to enormous claws, jaws, and teeth, the tiger can easily kill prey twice its own weight, provided that it can get close enough to launch an attack. It may spend half an hour noiselessly stalking its prey before charging forward. Death comes silently because a tiger doesn't roar when it launches an attack. However, recent research has found that things are very different when it comes to defense. The tiger is number 9 in the countdown because it uses a very weird weapon when trying to keep away rival tigers. All it has to do is open its mouth and roar. A tiger's roar is a truly frightening thing. Humans can literally be stunned by the blast of noise. And we can't even hear most of the tiger's roar. The frequencies are too low for us to detect. Initially, researchers believed the tigers could stun their prey with this sonic boom. But now the theory is that tigers use their low-frequency calls on each other. Could it be that a blast from a mighty roar is as debilitating as a swipe from a paw? While scientists are just beginning to investigate the impact of the tiger's stunning sounds, there's one man who's found a very different way to turn noise into a weapon. At the American Technology Corporation in San Diego, Woody Norris is working on a gadget that's being hailed as the next big breakthrough in high-tech weaponry. How would you like to be able to fire a beam of sound like a spotlight? And it's all based on frequencies that, unlike the roar of a tiger, are too high for us to hear.
This is an emitter, and this does not function in the same way as any loudspeaker in the world. What comes out of it is ultrasound. It's a low-level but very high-frequency ultrasonic wave.
The emitter can convert everything from music to your voice into a complex ultrasonic signal that's only heard when the listener stands in front of the narrow column of sound.
And so I can either have you listen by aiming it towards you directly or point it at a distant wall. And the wall becomes a loudspeaker, the same as if I would shine a beam of light on a wall. You would see that circle of the light on the wall. Same thing. Sound being treated much like we think of light.
And just as our eyes get dazzled by a spotlight, imagine what would happen to your ears if you were caught in a beam of sound produced by this device.
This is the LRAD. It's a long-range acoustical device.
LRAD can be used to clearly communicate to someone standing 300 yards away. And if they decide not to listen, you can get their attention by blasting them with a tightly focused beam of noise. At 114 decibels, it's about as loud as an ambulance siren. But when it gets cranked up to a maximum of more than 160 decibels, it would be like standing next to a jet engine at takeoff. Already in use by the U.S. military and police forces, LRAD devices are now also found on the open sea as a way of warding off potential pirates. After all, being blasted with a beam of deafening sound would be more than enough to put most people off stealing and navigation. The Tiger's version of LRAD is just as effective. It's been said that their low-frequency roars can be heard 5 miles away. So just imagine what it would be like to be standing this close to their strange sonic weapon.
The weapons of our first two contenders have been deafening and disgusting. But if you think they... Number 8.
The next contender in our countdown of the natural world's weirdest weapons can be found in the mangrove swamps of Southeast Asia. It's a strange place because here raindrops fall upwards. And that's bad news if you're a fly. In most places, if you land 6 feet above the water, you'd be safe from even the hungriest fish. But down below in the mangrove roots, competition for food is so fierce that one animal has worked out how to feed in the sky. And all it takes is a very strange weapon. The archerfish doesn't fire arrows, but water. First, it presses its tongue against a groove on the roof of its mouth. Then snaps its gills shut to launch a jet of water with remarkable accuracy. Once human water pistols worked in much the same way, and then along came a nuclear scientist who changed the game forever. Welcome to Panama City, Florida, and the Spring Break Super Soaker Survival Challenge. This new generation of squirt gun was developed by accident late one night in 1982. In his spare time, nuclear scientist Lonnie Johnston was trying to invent a new heat pump system when he attached a model of the pumping mechanism to his bathroom sink. Suddenly, a powerful water blast shot across the room. In that instant, he had the idea for a new weapon. Moving the pump of a super soaker doesn't actually drive water out of the gun. It serves to build up pressure before the blast. So the more air you pump in, the further you can fire. Today's guns have a range of 50 feet. And while it's all fun and games in Florida, the stakes are even higher for competitive archerfish. With lots of hungry mouths waiting to steal a dropped catch, the archerfish is far better than any baseball player at calculating where its plummeting prey will splash down. Researchers have found that an archerfish needs just 100 milliseconds to judge the catch. They have to be quick because there are plenty of other hungry mouths waiting in the outfield. It seems that when your species is armed with seriously weird weapons, everybody's waiting to jump at the chance of a free lunch.
If you think being hit by weapons made from water or sound is unusual, just wait till you see a stinky way to spoil Christmas. Number 7.
The next contender in our countdown of the weirdest animal weaponry looks as tough and ornery as the American deserts it lives in. Meet the horned lizard. Lots of animals steer clear of the powerful jaws and venomous stings of ants, but the horned lizard eats them for breakfast. Its thick, spiny coat may be a great defense against bugs, but it needs a very different weapon if it's going to take on more powerful predators. When faced by a cunning coyote, the horned lizard's first tactic is to act like a rock and hope to go unnoticed. But as the threat increases, so does the blood pressure inside sinuses behind the eyes of the lizard. Its weird weapon is now locked and loaded because this reptile fires blood. The horned lizard can fire a jet of blood up to 3 feet from a tiny opening in the corner of its eye. While firing this strange weapon doesn't harm the lizard, it does send predators packing. It appears that the jet of blood contains foul-tasting chemicals. Strangely enough, some humans also use a noxious spray in the forest. Every December in America, some people decide that instead of buying a Christmas tree, they'll steal one from a plantation. That's why some foresters have started spraying their trees with a dilute mixture of fox urine. Out in the forest where they belong, the smell is virtually unnoticeable. But imagine what happens if somebody sneaks into the property and steals a tree that was never meant to be part of the Christmas celebration. Once a treated tree gets into a small living room, the warmth of the fire will release the foul, foxy odor. It's the fir tree grower's gift to Christmas tree bandits. And while the bloody spray of the horned lizard doesn't stink, it's an equally effective deterrent against a hungry predator. While shooting blood out your eyes is definitely weird, our next contender does far more damage when it fires acid out its bottom.
Number 6.
How'd you like to wake up one night with this creepy crawly in your bed? In your panic, you'd think you were up close and personal with a scorpion. But this is just a close cousin, because instead of a venomous sting, it has a long, hairy whip. And even though it's called a whip scorpion, that tail isn't a weapon. It's only waved about to collect sensory information. But there's another reason why you don't want to get too close to a whip scorpion's rear end. It's number 6 in the countdown, because glands in its abdomen fire vinegar more than 2 feet in any direction. And this isn't just the vinegar you put in your salad dressing. which is only about 5% acetic acid. The whip scorpion fires a well-aimed stream that's 17 times more concentrated. The acid's strong enough to burn the mouth of a mammal and eat through the external shell of predatory bugs. Being able to spray highly concentrated vinegar out your bottom is a great defense. In fact, this weird weapon is one reason why the whip scorpion has survived on the planet for as long as 400 million years. However, there are far stranger things flying off an animal's abdomen coming up in the countdown.
While we might not like being sprayed by jets of acid or blood, we'll discover that even a cloud of bubbles can become a deadly weapon if you're a fish. And later, could these machines be the answer for growers to get their vegetables to the market fast? Find out next on Animal Planets. Number 5.
Crawling in to number 5 in our countdown of the natural world's weirdest weapons is the tarantula. Usually, snakes have nothing to fear from a spider, but a tarantula can have legs big enough to cover a dinner plate. There's no doubt that the conventional weapons of the tarantula make it a powerful predator. But unfortunately, the world's biggest spider is still much smaller than many hungry mammals. So it needs to use a different kind of weapon. This coati, a relative of the raccoon, is about to find out why the tarantula is number 5 in the countdown. The tarantula is covered in hairs, but those on its abdomen are barbed like miniature fishhooks. When its aggressive bluff doesn't work, the tarantula uses its feet to fire off a cloud of tiny darts. Having tarantula hairs flicked into your face can do terrible things to the nasal membranes, which is why the nose makes masses of mucus to try to flush away the stinging darts. While throwing hairy darts is a great form of defense for the tarantula, these guys have a very different reason for throwing pumpkins. Welcome to southern Delaware, where the designs of many ancient weapons have been modified to launch the big orange vegetables. Thousands gather to watch people fire a pumpkin as far as possible.
All right, Johnny, we got fire in the hole. 3, 2, 1.
At the World Pumpkin Chunkin' Championship, some pumpkins can fly over 4,000 feet.
3, 2, 1.
By the end of the competition, nearly 100 machines have pulverized 5 tons of pumpkin, and people have had fun raising funds for charity. But it's no laughing matter getting a face full of tarantula hairs, especially since recent research has shown that each species of tarantula has hairs to target specific enemies. A spider actually chooses to fire darts that will cause the most irritation to that particular predator. And the only downside is that you can end up with a bald backside.
Number 4.
Unlike the tarantula, many spiders turn thin strands of silk into delicate webs to filter insects out of the sky. But once the web is constructed, some spiders just have to sit and wait for an insect to make the biggest mistake of its life. Our next contender is another spider that, like the tarantula, has decided that waiting for its prey is boring. Only this hunter has turned silk into a most unusual weapon. When the lights go out, the stealth fighter of the spider world crawls into action. It uses the sensitive hairs on its feet to detect the vibrations of a potential meal. And then it spits. If you blinked, you missed it. This is the spitting spider, and it fires out a sticky web in just 140 milliseconds, less than half the time it takes you to blink an eye. You need super high-speed cameras to capture the action. Its fangs fire 2 strands of silk that are coated in not just glue, but also paralyzing venom. The fibers spray out in a zigzag pattern, immobilizing the prey with sticky silk and poison. And if you hunt jumping spiders, your prey takes a lot of immobilizing. Jumping spiders have excellent eyesight and are quite capable of turning the hunter into the hunted. But thanks to its strange weapon, the spitting spider can keep its distance as it traps its dangerous prey. It's a trick that would make Spider-Man proud, but there are still far stranger and far more potent weapons coming up in the countdown.
While our last 2 contenders have done strange things with their spit and hairy backsides, what on earth would make these guys want to stuff their trousers with straw? Number 3.
Well done, come on. Well done.
The next contender in our countdown of the natural world's weirdest weapons is an animal that's found an unusual way to round up its food. It hunts just like a farmer using a pack of noisy dogs to corral cattle into a manageable herd. But the animal at number 3 in the countdown lives far from the farm, and instead of whistling at dogs, it blows bubbles. From out of the ocean depths comes the humpback whale. When you're 40 feet long and weigh 40 tons, who needs weapons? Just a tap with your 15-foot-long fin would quickly settle most arguments. The trouble is that one of the biggest animals on the planet eats some of the smallest fish in the sea. In summer, a humpback needs to eat up to a ton of food every day. But if it had to catch the fish one by one, it would surely starve. That's why humpback whales use a most remarkable weapon. They're number 3 in the countdown because they go fishing using a net made out of a little air and a lot of noise. The first step is to swim beneath a school of unsuspecting herring. Several whales may work together to exhale big bursts of bubbles. Trapped inside curtains of air that can be 100 feet in diameter, the fish freak out and form a tightly packed school. But why don't the fish just swim through the bubbles? Well, recent research suggests that the humpbacks fire blasts of noise at the bubble net, creating a barrier of deafening sound. It seems that their carefully placed calls may leave a relatively quiet region in the center of the net. And this is where the fish congregate, as far as possible from the terrifying noise in the bubble wall. And this tightly packed ball of fish is the target for hungry humpbacks. Sometimes more than 20 whales may join in a communal lunge through the bubble net to swallow great gulps of concentrated seafood. A wall of sound and bubbles may not seem like much of an impenetrable barrier, but then looks can be deceiving. After all, who would have thought that a nice-looking suit could stop a bullet? These fashionable designs look nothing like the standard body armor. Specializing in high-security fashion, Colombian designer Miguel Caballero has been called the Armani of bulletproof apparel. His clothes are for executives who demand maximum discretion, comfort, and flexibility. Manufactured from weaves of specially treated synthetic thread, these clothes can stop bullets from anything up to an Uzi machine gun. But not even the thinnest jacket can compete with the humpback whale's wall of bubbles. It may not be able to stop a bullet, but in combination with the whale's sonic booming, it's more than enough to corner schools of herring. However, this bubbling fish trap is nothing compared to the complicated apparatus constructed by our next contender.
Number 2.
In the forests of South America, you can find the plant Hirtella, and those bumps on its stem are the fungus-coated homes of the ant Allomeris that's less than 1/10 of an inch long. The ants provide security for the plant, keeping away hungry herbivores. In return, the ants get a place to live and a supply of the fine hairs they use to construct their elaborate weapon. First, they weave the fibers into a platform around the stem. Then, they spread an extract from a specially cultivated fungus over the framework, which dries just like a protective fiberglass coating. Their trap is finished. Now they just have to sit beneath the platform and wait for an unsuspecting insect to land on the deadly mesh. From the safety of their holes, the tiny ants can grab hold of the unfortunate insect, stretching it out like a victim on a medieval torture rack. Then, swarms of stinging nestmates kill the bug and quickly dismember it. All kinds of massive animals can be brought down if something attacks their legs. As you can see, if you visit the Cotswold Olympic Games in England. First held in 1612, the Games feature a variety of traditional activities. But the strangest is the ancient sport of shin kicking. Straw provides the only protection, as contestants try to bring each other down by kicking their shins. The kickers still wear the traditional white smocks associated with shepherds. But since they no longer compete in boots tipped with iron, there are far fewer broken legs at the end of the competition. If you're caught by the shin kickers of the insect world, there's no referee to stop the fight. Even the biggest bugs can be fooled into thinking that the smooth stem is a safe place to land. However, not even this ant's gruesome trap can compete with the weirdest weapon in the countdown. It's a shockingly complicated piece of machinery that can kill not bugs, but humans.
We've seen the 9 contenders. They've all developed wacky weapons to use in the fight for survival. Only one animal is armed with a more extreme device. It's number 1, and it's coming up next on Animal Planets. Number 1.
You won't believe your eyes when you see what the animal at number 1 in the countdown can do with electricity. In the movies, mad scientists can use it to create life. And while your blood may not congeal, you will be shocked when you see the weird weapon used by a very scary animal. It can be found lurking in the Amazon River. Although these waters are home to the giant anaconda and voracious piranha, there's another animal in here that's just as deadly. Even this caiman, a cousin of the alligator, is defenseless against the weird weapon of the animal slithering in to number 1 in the countdown. The caiman has a jaw full of powerful conventional weapons, and yet it's about to meet a fish that doesn't have a single tooth in its head. The fish is a very special type of eel, and it's about to give the caiman the shock of its life. It's an electric eel. It has a tail packed with up to 200,000 linked electrochemical cells. They combine to pack a punch 5 times stronger than sticking your finger in a power socket. It's more than enough to stun a caiman. The electric eel is number 1 in the countdown because it uses electricity for much more than just defense. It's an extreme way of hunting, so it's no wonder that electricity is being used to catch both fish and criminals. This is a taser. It shoots electric probes into a suspect's body and then delivers 50,000 volts of electricity. And while police routinely use tasers to stop criminals, now you can use them to protect your car. The auto taser works just like a normal steering lock. That is, until you touch it. First, it sets off an alarm, and if you persist, you get hammered with 50,000 volts of electricity.
It's almost like a stinging funny bone, and sometimes it travels all the way up your arm. Ow!
But that's nothing compared to the jolt delivered by an electric eel. This remarkable fish can knock down a horse, and repeated shocks could kill a human. But in the dark, murky waters of the Amazon, there are other uses for electricity. By generating low-voltage pulses, the eel can navigate and locate small fish. It's only the high voltages that are lethal. Since the eel has no teeth, the instant electric knockdown means it doesn't have to try to swallow struggling prey. No other animal can generate such vast amounts of electricity or turn it into such a potent weapon. Which is why, when it comes to weird weapons, the electric eel's shocking body really is the most extreme.